This conference will now be recorded.
New hardware detected.
Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Turn off. Can you hear everybody? Mary, can you hear everybody else or just me? You're muted. You're muted.
I can hear the gentleman. Yep, I can hear everyone.
Perfect.
I don't know why
I
it
made
did
a
that.
motion to approve the agenda.
Why is it doing
Okay, did you hear that, Mary?
I hear you now, yes.
Okay, Troy made a motion to accept the agenda, and we're just looking for a second.
I'll second it, yep.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Approve the minutes from August 2nd.
I can move.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we have to approve the accounts payable. What's this 400 for the,
What's a skate rink,
Skate rink.
400?
That's not, that should be for, so one of those pads was for, or those 3 pads for out at the Covered Bridge Park, and then we had 3 pads up at East Park, so that should be for the
Oh,
pads.
yeah, that, yeah.
oh, for the benches.
For the benches.
The
other
okay.
benches.
Sorry about that.
Yep. Okay. Oh, then down below it's concrete for benches.
Yeah,
2 different, correct. So 400 for one park, 400 for the other.
correct.
I see the cleaning is on there twice. What is Don Holst do cleaning for?
He cleans the camp back.
Perfect.
That's just for 2 separate months.
Yep.
That just overlapped with this one.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll go right into the unfinished business and we're gonna go right to the Emerald Ash Borer and the disc.
So just quickly, a little bit more. So with Soil and Water as a job, I live in just north of town here. I play in the park disc golf about every day. My wife joins me 20% of the time and my daughter as well. But I really enjoy the park, and it was nice when Fred stopped by and chatted with me about it. And then I started talking about the tree stuff too. So I also have a background as a Minnesota certified tree inspector. And so to go into the EAB stuff first, the Emerald Ash Borer, when I was talking to Mike out there, the way I explained it, I talked to a lot of citizens of Dakota County where I work, is if it's a really great tree in your front yard, it might be something that's worth injecting year after year, but it's a high cost to that. It's kind of like having a cancer patient where you can keep injecting it over the long term, but you never know when you're going to lose that tree. So a much more financial savvy thing to do is to replace those trees now with some other species that are more hardy or tolerant, especially down in the floodplain area there. And then I do have some trees I would recommend, or some sites you could check out. They would work well, like silver maples or American elm or Dutch elms resistant. Mike and I talked about the city has the nursery to grow trees, so a really nice thing and amenity that the city has. So my recommendation would be to start replacing those over time and removing them slowly as you start to see them become hazardous trees, as some of them are up by the campground there, and then work your way down to the ones that are still providing a nice shade and cover, and remove as you need to, and can budget that out over time. Then going into the disc golf stuff. So since I moved here talking about playing here, I've always said it'd be awesome to get into 18 holes. There's space out there to do so. So when I was approached to discuss that, I was like, this is awesome. Disc golf is one of the fastest growing sports in the nation and the world right now. So pretty cool to see. It's good. That park is phenomenal already, but could draw more people to the park and to the town. And so I've done a little bit of talking to some designers and people that play up in the cities. I go up and play in tournaments and leagues up there at some of the bigger courses, but I have a few questions for you guys, but then, and I can cover some cost stuff. But so I kind of went around the park today and just looked at what's out there and ideas I have, did some draft layouts. The ideal situation would be is that if it was to go ahead to do the 18 holes, is that I could go out there, I have some temporary chains that are movable. I could go out and play these before you put any investment into them, and we could get a layout designed so that would be well thought out. Because I've tried to take in a few different things. One, it'd be really nice to highlight the covered bridge somehow, so to get people to somehow get up close to that or be able to walk across it, or park on this side and use local businesses and go over there to play. Then also trying to avoid crossing any paths, going near the volleyball courts, other things where we'd have recreational conflict. With that being said, I would be happy to put the time in to do that kind of layout stuff. As designers for courses, I don't know if anybody ever want to put the amount of money that they cost into it, but I would be happy to try to help with that and involve whoever else would like to be involved. I also started playing with some other people local in town. I could get them involved, so it's a community effort. I also look forward to being a part of this as a volunteer, just with the tree stuff and the course as a volunteer effort and being part of my community. So getting into nitty gritty, disc golf baskets. You already got 9 out there, so to get 9 more, disc golf basket costs between $300 and $350, depending on what kind you get. Some ideas I have is I was just up playing at Closure Park in South St. Paul, and they had all their baskets sponsored. So they had local businesses, doctors, disc golf companies support those. So I'd also be happy to help try to get that, promote that and get that done. And then concrete tee pads, which are very similar to what just happened with the park benches that were put in the concrete pads. There'd be similar size to that and similar cost to that, depending on how big we would design them. The nice thing about that is it keeps it from getting muddy, so it keeps the course a lot nicer. It's also a safer thing. I've seen people fall down out there, me included. So those would be the two big expenses to it. And then my design right now would pretty much be very little to no changes to the existing park. There'd be maybe a little bit, I'd like to get up into some tree areas. So maybe we could do a little bit of a trail through, removing no large trees, but smaller brushy stuff. So it wouldn't be a large expense, but that would be the only expense. With that said, that's kind of my little spiel. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So just to clarify a little bit on those cement pads, when I was talking to John about it, the ones now are fairly small. And so what the park benches were, I think are 5x8s, and that's what he was saying would probably be more adequate to fit in there for those cement pads. And then that idea of a sponsor for the baskets, I think that's kind of a neat idea, you know, and definitely could hang some signs or even on the pad somehow.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Like the ones that, the newer chains that are out have a band across the top, and that's where they have nice advertising on them.
On that paper right there, you can order and have it pre-printed to go on each individual hole on the bottom.
Like you said, on top there.
Yep. So, where I was focusing design of an additional 9 would be more on the south end of the park. Oh, nice. Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about on the top there. Oh, cool. You guys are doing this stuff. Sweet. So I was focusing, it would be additional 9, mostly it would be on this end of the park. Stay away from the RV because I know there's going to be changes up there. It gets kind of tight along the river with the path up on the north end. So everything I was looking at down here. But if there's any other directions or thoughts, or I'd be happy to.
Plenty of room.
Plenty of room, yeah. I mean, just with my draft, I probably have 10 or 12 holes. And they're all just ideas right now. I thought about printing it off, but I don't want anybody to really see it because if you get an idea in your head, it's like, well, I don't trust this yet.
And then you were also talking tournament with adding another 9, being able to host tournaments here.
That would be another way that we could raise some money too, is to host a tournament down here. Like I just played that one up in Kaposia. It brings a lot of money in. Or I would be happy to kind of start like a league night too, could be another way to do it.
I think that's a great idea, and I think you hit on all the really key points, at least that I went out and played a couple times. I just play very recreational with my kids and stuff like that, but absolutely the tee boxes that we have out there are really, really short. They're not a lot, and to his point, they get very muddy, and we've got some things painted on them, but obviously it's been some years since we've updated them or things like that. The baskets we have are outdated and not very colorful. The sponsors on the baskets would be a phenomenal idea. But we easily could support, you know, an 18-hole course very easily. And I love the idea of bringing it up closer towards the front and people can see it from Highway 58 driving through, tying it into our flagship, you know, the covered bridge itself, but not crossing the path. I think he's mindful of all the key points here and getting closer and a little bit better tee boxes and things towards the trees and stuff, rather than just a wide open going back and forth. Otherwise, there's not really appeal to some other courses. Mostly more difficult
And
stuff.
bringing that challenge level up, we can bring more people who like a
And
challenge.
it's very popular. I got a lot of coworkers just in Cannon Falls that are itching to play. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so then where do we go from here then?
I'd be happy to start trying to put together draft ideas of how to get 9 more out there. My originally, when I kind of talked to you guys about it, was about changing the 9, but I was thinking about leaving the existing 9 as is, and then just adding 9 down here to try to really get to the public eye and the bridge out, you know, really pop it, make it pop, but also get back into the trees behind like the ice rink. So that where we get to we can get the challenging parts in and then get close to the river. Because even a short one by a river, that's a challenge, losing your disc to a river. So, but that 9 stays pretty easy then for, you know, maybe the kids that want to play or whatever, and you can get more challenging as we get down here, but they'll still be easy and hard within that. So
So mainly we would just upgrade the 9 that's there, get the tee boxes and
Yeah, and that's a good thing to talk about too, is do you want to update all the original 9? I mean, you could leave those chains and add 9 just new chains. You could update all 18. I would personally, I think all the tee boxes should be updated to cement pads for safety and playability. So that's, I guess, what I would recommend.
Yeah, and we definitely would upgrade them. And then, I don't know, I would think that, I mean, if you're looking at to bring, you know, people down for tournaments and stuff, because I talked to you about these older ones, he said they've got better ones that would
Yeah,
work.
like
would
these, I
say-
don't know if the chains will get stuck together and the next person that throws it might make them mad if you're picky.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I guess if we're upgrading this whole thing, we switch out the 9 of there, you know, upgrade the tee-off boxes and put new chains in there, and then we'd have the advertisement around all of them.
And that's, I would fully support that. And another idea that just came to my mind is you could sell those old ones too still for money, because they're still wanted by smaller parks. Might want to
Okay.
buy those 9s. So I would look into that too if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the continuity of having all 18 fresh and new, plus I think we'll have no problem finding 18 sponsors to sponsor holes, you know, at $3.50 a basket. You know, I don't think that'll be a problem. I think we'll get 18 sponsors in a hurry.
Sponsors for the tee box too, separate them.
Right.
Then you can have somebody sponsor the concrete pad for your tee box, and you could have somebody sponsor your hole as well. I mean, just.
If you want to do some better signage next to your tee pad that would show you where you're throwing next.
That says where you're throwing, sponsored by.
Because at least if it's sitting up, even if someone's not playing disc golf, walk by, it still could
Oh, that's a great
be
idea.
advertised.
And somebody could do a
Direction of where to go.
gold sponsor or whatever and do both, the tee box and the.
Plus, it will be easier for the very novice people to even find the tee box. When you're out there now, just walking around your first time through, you don't know where the next tee box is or where it's at, especially when it's just flush. So I think that's great. I think the next plan would be for John or somebody to kind of give a rough layout of what the following 9 would look like. We get a full 18. The only thing I'd be mindful for, and I know it's going to be a couple years out, so maybe it won't even be an issue because it's only a $400 pad, but we may have to revamp the tee box. It's up close to like the kiddie pool, depending on if we go with a splash pad or what, when the construction gets up there. I like keeping it close to the pool. I like keeping it close to the covered bridge park and kind of stretching it as far as we can from one end to the other. But that's the only thing is how much we get up towards the pool. But I like the idea of keeping the existing 9 kind of the way it is too. But if we're going to redo the tee boxes and put in new baskets, it's certainly open for discussion to have a whole thing brand new too. Just to get good flow.
So something like this, once you get this laid out, I mean, we could do like a community thing to come and, or like for the tee boxes and stuff, like on a Saturday, or what are you thinking? That you guys, I mean, that's gets to be a lot for.
Would be, well, yeah, it'd be a lot of concrete for them.
You know, when we get closer to that, we can
Yeah,
see what we
something
want
to
to
keep
do.
talking about.
Who framed up our benches and stuff like that? That stuff we did. So it'd be like 18 of those.
Right. And the thing about it is, you wouldn't have to pour them all at once. So we were able to reuse, you know, we could probably get 6 forms and or 6 of them at once.
Yep.
But then we can reuse some of them
Move
forms
them
instead
on
of
down
buying
the
all
line here.
the forms.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So I suppose we would need a motion to have John go ahead and start designing or whatever you call it, and get the support of the park board to upgrade the tee boxes and the chains. I would, especially, like you said, I don't think it's gonna be a problem to sell sponsorships.
Find the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Pretty good. All year long, right there.
I like that idea. Like you said, you've always been very mindful of, you know, not going too close to the RV park or going too close to some of the bike paths, you know, so you're not, no obstructions and things like that. So I definitely make a motion for John to do a layout of the continuation or redesign of the golf disc in the park with new tee boxes and replacing the baskets in addition of, you know, a full 18-hole course.
Mary will second that.
Okay, you got the motion, Meredith? Not gonna repeat it. Got a motion and a second to go forward on the disc golf. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I got one follow-up question for you on the Emerald Ash Borer. Could you talk a little bit about that nursery again, what you and I talked about? You talked about gravel. Yeah, and maybe about us, because our, right now our nursery is, them trees are getting to there's a few left out there, but if we talk to Mick Klug, they're starting to get to the end of, they're getting big enough where some of them are going to be, we aren't going to be able to move them. So we might have to talk about adding a nursery again. And John had just something I'd never heard of. He was talking about a gravel.
Yeah, a lot of communities are moving, cities are moving towards, and park systems are using these gravel beds. So really what it is they dig it's, it's a hole, 3, 4, depending how many trees you're gonna plant. A hole, and then it's like pea gravel or class 5, it's gravel bed. They plant bare root trees in them, so they get pretty cheap stock. They grow them out for 1 year, and all they do is water them. But this creates a very fibrous root system. So as opposed to like a city buying ball and burlap containerized trees, which with a lot of the tree issues I see is that's how they were containerized growing. We see a lot of tree root issues or disease issues. These get these really fibrous root systems, and we're finding that the longevity and survival rate of these trees is phenomenal. And that once they're in the ground, they really take off a lot faster than our containerized trees that have been really growing in a micro environment and then get stuck out into the reality of life, and it can change how they can function and how long they can survive. So yeah, if you guys want to look up gravel bed stuff, or if you want to give me your email, I could send you some resources of stuff that I have on gravel beds.
I'll grab you a card before you leave here.
That'd be great.
But the other thing is I did talk to Mick Klug. Mick moved those trees in out there. Those ash trees got moved in. I think he was talking like 25 years ago. Does that sound right? 25, 30 years ago anyway. And he said, they started relatively small. I know we've talked about either treating them or planting new, and everybody is afraid of losing that canopy. But we truly did start with something small out there to start with, a small tree that, it took that long to get. But if you find some of those trees, even those elms, but the maples, they grow fairly fast. So
yeah, that's what we talked about too, is that those floodplain species, that kind of the ones that I was recommending, are at least fast growers to start replacing the canopy out there.
And again, I think the big thing with treating those trees, there's no guarantee that treatment's going to work. You can have a lot of money dumped into those trees and not know that they're going to make it through a treatment even, and more than likely a lot of these trees up on this end even that aren't showing it now probably are infected with it, you would say, which is
just assuming from what I've seen on the north end of the park, that they've definitely been infected. There's probably a good chance that these down here are too.
So I think I guess what I'm saying is I think we should probably look at doing something with our nursery again to get something started there at least. And even now, if we want to replace a few of those trees, I think we could start replacing a few at a time anyway. So, and some of them that are, we've already cut some of them down or along there, we should maybe start thinking about starting that, but then also talk about our nursery again and get that nursery started, knowing what we have to replace out there. It's just something to think about, I guess, that way.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question too. Would it be maybe cut down like every third one or something? Grow some trees in the nursery, cut down every third one, move those after a year or whatever we grow, and then as the other ones die out, plant some more in the nursery and then cut down every second one or whatever.
Yeah, there's different methods to go about it. From what I've seen is I would probably go for the ones that are really canopies dying off and get those down and leave the groups together, because it seems like if there's 1 and 3 are all together, you might start losing those 3 altogether. So planting trees to the outsides of those early on, and then you could go in and remove those later, or take them down and then plant trees to the outsides of those. would, I guess, be a way I would lean, but
Yeah, I mean, like Mike said, that's kind of the canopy over that road is really nice. You know,
So
I mean, you
nice.
talk about the really nice tree in the front yard, well, that's those, but we're not gonna spend the money on treating all those. And probably, maybe, we won't spend the money on treating any of those, but to get a good plan in place on how to kind of maintain some sort of a tree line there.
yeah, or start interplanting right now and then go through and cut down.
Yeah.
That after you start to get, and then those trees will really go through once they get the sunlight, but yeah, to drive into that park, it's like you're going into a tunnel of trees.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. And that must have been, because they weren't there when the softball fields were down there.
No.
So it must have been, I suppose it has been 30 years. We're getting old, Troy.
Yeah, well, at the same time, we took out those red posts, wasn't it?
Because this is the main spot. We got all the other ones in the park are just, they're not, is there groups of them then, or is it, they're kind of just scattered all over the place?
Well, the road by the park, I know was ones that you and I were looking at that really have a lot of them. And then up by hole 6, which is the one that gets up by the RV park and the dumpsters there, that's where I'm seeing a lot of the EABs really hit the trees. Yeah, I guess I haven't paid attention if they're all ashes that you enter in, or if those are some other species, well, there's some linden in there or something.
I think there's quite a few. I think the majority of them would be ash, if I recall too. I guess I'd Larry said.
Yeah, but I think we should get moving on the plan.
Right.
You know, get something going.
So you're suggesting I mean, with this nursery, we put them in, I mean, do we put some in right here now?
Yeah.
I think
As soon as you can, if you have trees,
Well,
into the emerald ash areas.
In
but-
that area,
Yep.
and just, but the nursery is just,
That can be your backup. You can start growing them there and then you
Okay.
can start
okay,
interplanting.
but we can start putting some right in there right away then.
So I think if we talk to Mick, there's still a certain amount of those trees in the nursery, and there's some of the American elm, which are the Dutch resistant elm out there that I think we can pull some out yet. I think we still have some of those trees. There's still some available, and I'd like to use, otherwise it's starting to get too big. I'd like to take as many out of that nursery as we could, you know.
And you could plug them in here.
Plug them in there. Yeah, I think we can plug it.
Awesome.
That's a great idea. And those American elm, I mean, they were the boulevard tree. And
Right.
that's when
Okay.
we saw them all go down and trees changed to ash and now we have ash park.
And the other thing that when I was talking to Mick, he said it was probably a good idea to probably mix that up because of that reason, if that makes sense. You don't want to have one variety in there. You want to probably have a few different varieties that you can plug in there so you don't have it take out one again the next time, you know, because more than likely there'll be another time for something else that comes up. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time and.
Yeah,
your-
thank you.
Appreciate it, John.
Appreciate working with you on all this other stuff there, so.
If anyone wants to go throw some disc, I'm usually out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
He's
you,
got quite the setup. He needs a caddy, actually.
My wife, now we're gonna make it a little hard.
well, that's what I went through last month. I seen him there and he had that bag and I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's the guy to talk to. So you just stay in touch with Mike and everything and.
Yeah, sounds
stuff,
good.
And we'll go. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John. Look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
You bet.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
That's awesome.
That is.
That is awesome.
He's a good guy to have in the community, huh?
Remind me again, that was just luck that you guys stumbled across him?
Fred's-
Nobody knows him?
Well, I saw him,
He's my neighbor.
I saw him like Friday playing out here with his dog. And then I went through on the next Monday and he was getting quite a pickup. I thought, well, he's been out here twice now. So I just pulled over and started
Fred,
talking
in
to
case
him.
you didn't know, Fred likes to talk to people.
Well, I think. Everyone.
Yeah, no,
It was just by chance.
no, I just, you have to be there again. I stopped and talked to him.
So anybody who knew where, out by Adler's, I know Clarissa and
Oh,
what's
yeah,
her
yeah.
husband's name? He kind of lives across from Cindy Baker's.
Cindy
old
Baker's
house-
place.
Old house.
His name sounds very familiar. That's why
Yeah,
I assumed
and he was-
somebody had to know him. Well, that's awesome. What a great coincidence
Yeah,
that
it was a
was.
great find there. Okay, well, I'm gonna apologize right now, but I've already went out once. I mistakenly took my water pill before I came, so I might be just dashing out, so I apologize for
I do that in the morning.
that.
These guys laugh at me
Okay.
all day.
Park accessories for the cement pads. Mike, you want to,
Just Fred had given me, who was it, Fred? Local.
with the lines and stuff?
uh,
Oh, yeah.
That
What was
was the local guy in town here, right? Or
Yes, he lives in town. Oh.
Well, anyway, so
Wait,
that
you
was
want
the
pickleball or
information I got
shuffleboard?
for some of this.
All that stuff where you checked with this guy.
We used him before, I think, we used him out at the park. We bought some bags for the, out at the park there and stuff, but there's some prices there. Pretty standard prices on the basketball hoops. I actually looked at, I had Earl F. Anderson send me some stuff over. Their Earl F's pickleball net and portable pickleball net, the cheapest one that they had in theirs was $2,000. So this for $219, they look pretty standard across a lot of stuff that they had. And then, of course, that's like anything you can buy. Well, Fred and I met with, it was one of the Fredricksons. Can't remember when we were talking about setting up that pickleball court out there, but same thing with paddles. I mean, most people probably bring their own paddles, but I think from what I understood, you guys would like to have a set of paddles that we could leave in the library or something for people to take out. But you could kind of spend any kind of amount of money on the stuff that you really want. The paddles, these are cheap paddles, but they make some real expensive paddles apparently, which I'm not up to the pickleball stuff, but and the same thing with the basketball hoops and stuff. I think those prices look pretty standard. I mean, they seem kind of expensive at that price, but they're pretty standard for what you're gonna find for basketball nets and or basketball hoops and stuff. And then same thing with the shuffleboard. I don't know if you wanted to buy a set or whatever to leave in the library, but or if most people you think will just bring their own. I was just talking about we were talking, what was the Fredrickson that we met with that day? Dana. He said same thing in the paddles. These are pretty basic paddles, but you can spend a lot of money on paddles according to him too and have the state of the art paddles, I guess. But I assumed you guys wanted to leave something at the library for people to, or maybe sit, probably the library. I think they got better hours over there. I don't know for sure, but that's something to look at, I guess. Same thing with the shuffleboard. I don't know if you wanted to have stuff here for.
Well, there's some people, I mean, like in pickleball, I think most people are that play a lot, got their paddles and stuff. Shuffleboard, nobody's gonna bring their own stuff for shuffleboard. So I would kind of suggest for shuffleboard, if maybe we had 2 sets, have one at the library, and then we could have one at Tucker Dining, and have one over at his place for the campers. We just grab it from there to walk down and go. And the same with the pickleball, we could have a set of paddles up here and a set of paddles with him.
But yeah, pretty much, I like it, you said pretty standard prices that way when you look across some of it. And you can spend what you want on that. Mike Magnuson, is that the name?
Magnuson is his last name, yes. Unless if you had said something about some other place too.
People that are in that little pickleball club or whatever. That's all.
Because what are we looking at, like three nets?
3 nets.
And you maybe talked about, I was going, the shuffleboard is just a template, right?
That was the template I had there.
You know.
And when I look at it, we're gonna definitely need that, but then that's we'll end up
Using it over.
We'll have that forever. That's a template.
And then like two,
Do they check the nets out too?
what's that?
Do they check the nets out too when they want to play pickleball?
So those are portable nets. I'm not sure how we were gonna do that. Do you think they're all right sitting down there? Just leaving them or?
Nothing's all right sitting anywhere.
Not bolted and screwed or glued. Yeah, I don't know.
Pretty simple to set up.
Yeah.
Just have a set up here and a set with the
Put it down there?
Campground.
Me2.
It looks like they come in a little carrying case.
Yeah, and then they just
Set one up if we know there's gonna be a league, I suppose. Or a
I'm sure
tournament.
they would have a tournament probably too at some point.
Yeah, we can find out when, like from Dana, I know they've got their own too and stuff, but you could tell them that we could, yeah, they could just bring theirs too or whatever.
Somebody's gonna crash them if they're sitting out down there, unfortunately.
Lock your box and you check out a key.
Well, after we get that new bathroom up there, we could turn that old bathroom into a storage
Oh, that's a great idea.
of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever's in there might get wet.
Keep your foot off the floor.
What's that?
Just keep your foot off the floor.
Well, I was gonna say it's tall enough. You put shelves even 4 feet up all the way around and
Right.
set all this on there. That would. Yep, no, it's a good thought, especially with all the stuff that we're adding.
yeah, just everything that's down there.
Just a little keypad and you can just change the code maybe, handle the code.
Yeah, those keypads nowadays, yeah, you can just give them a one-time use and.
That's how it works. The steps we're looking for.
Those will still stay bathrooms probably for another while here, so. We'd have to have another plan till that is ready.
Just use the library for now, because then everything's managed through your card. You have to return it. They got all your information. I don't
You
know.
know, the other thing is, a person should probably talk to James, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
just to
Before we just assume he'd take them all. Yeah.
Pile everything on him too. I would feel better about it, you know.
We have to have some sort of signage or something down there. Not many people are gonna know where to go get this stuff too. You're gonna want to put some signage at the court to say, for these items, if you don't have your own, check with the library across from the city hall or something.
And
Especially for
Are we-
people new to town.
are we
and stuff.
using the library because of the hours? I mean, city hall's open till,
Well, the library's open on Saturday
okay,
and they're open until 8, I think 3 nights of the week.
okay.
So they
So
do
we're
have-
using it for the hour.
Yeah, so the library is a little more convenient.
I would definitely want to talk to James, I think, before we just,
Yeah. I had talked to him about the ice rink, at least for the shovels. So we didn't have $60 shovels walking off at the ice rink. He was okay with that. So, but I mean, yeah, this is quite a bit of stuff after you start adding it all up. But
I rack my brain because I don't want it to be too difficult for people, because if it's too many steps or then they're just gonna say, forget it,
Or not.
or not.
It's a new thing, you know, in town, something new for them to do as an activity.
If we want to give them- Like if we have a locker that's a lockbox, we would need to have something from them in order for them to get a key, a code.
Yeah, to return it.
But like if you say, okay, we need $20, like some people are like, well, I don't, I'm just coming down to the park and I don't have a wallet on me, or, I'm just trying to think of ways to make it.
That's why it's just so nice if we can use the library to have it all there.
Maybe the lines are enough. Maybe everybody who's gonna play pickleball with their own portable nets. And
But then
we should have one.
Then you got the moms and dads that want to take their kids down for an afternoon that don't have any of the equipment. And they just drive by and watch everybody else play going, oh man, that looks kind of fun.
A permanent fixture, like the volleyball courts, wasn't an option.
but we didn't want to drill into the concrete.
bigger ones, but can we,
Or is there anything like weighted that you could do with it?
Not to keep it there permanently, I don't think, but
Like, you know, some of the volleyball nets
Yep.
are big and they're on
we got
wheels.
like a tire in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know these are a lot smaller, but
Right, and that's the only, I mean, they do make the permanent ones, but, well, I guess I didn't even look at those for an option.
If you start drilling in the middle where the water would be technically freezing, so then you're filling these holes with water and then it's gonna expand, it's gonna burst the concrete.
What's the layout of the actual concrete look like? Are the 3 courts, I mean, you talked about 3 different nets. Are the 3 courts going to be consecutive across one another, running north to south like Main Street?
I can grab that sheet. I
Is
still
the
have.
net running north
The
to south
nets
like
will
Main
run
Street? Or the-
east and
East
west.
and west. And then if you line all 3 nets up, it stops just short of the lights coming this way, so there's still quite a bit of pad open.
I was just
on the
thinking,
end
if
of
you
it.
ran 3 nets, I don't know what the dimensions of the court are, but if you ran the net north to south like Main Street, you could run the poles on the outside out there, just like the light poles are, and stretch a cable tight enough that you could have a permanent net there that you wouldn't have to take down. Then people can just bring their own paddles and
You
balls.
mean come this way with the nets?
No, the net would run north to, so that the long concrete runs east to west.
Right.
So if you cut across there, can you get 2 courts side by side so that the net would run parallel to Main Street? So you could stretch the net all the way across.
60 feet wide, yeah. The court is 20 feet.
So you'd have 3, but that'd be right to the edge of the grass. And I'm assuming you want some sort of border around it like you do a tennis court.
And you want 5 feet between each court.
You can get a pretty beefy,
You could get 2 good sized courts in there with a lot of room in between there. And then you could have 1 cable stretched permanently across there and have 2 nets right there.
So,
$700, you can get one that looks pretty beefy though.
so there, I think the way I understood what, it was 5 foot off the edges and then 5 foot in between them, correct, Fred? And then, so there was 5 foot separation in between them and that was enough for them. But they would run, those would lay out north to south.
Right. So north to south, there's no way to put in a permanent net without drilling into concrete. That's why I was
Into
thinking,
the center of your
Right.
concrete somewhere, right?
you don't want to put any holes in your concrete. That's guaranteed you're just going to bust up your concrete.
A cable that locks like a bike lock. Zigzag it through the legs.
Well, here's the deal, maybe we just start with one and see what we got, you know? And to start with one of them and see what we even have. And I would probably be more inclined at that point if we had the first one to leave it with Donnie, and I think, I don't know how that, I don't know if we've talked to him either, but he's got his phone number out there now for the campers that come in. They call him directly, maybe it'd be the same thing, just to, make sure that got his number, if they can use his number to post down there if they need a net and the accessories for it.
That's a great idea.
Where's Donnie gonna put all this down at the campground?
Where?
Where is he gonna be able to store this stuff down at the campground?
Well, I don't know how much room that, how big that bag is necessarily, but I think he's got room, right at his camper to keep that either underneath the camper in the bag, and the paddles and balls probably don't take up too much room either. Or we could get him a little plastic storage bin down there for it,
Right.
something.
Or you could spend $700 on a heavy duty one. Be a little tougher to break.
Heavier duty or one that's
Yeah.
portable, you mean, or?
Well, yeah, yeah. If you look out there, they go all up $1,700. There's one. But they're the big tubes, big steel tubes.
I guess my concern would be people walking off with them more than breaking them.
I like the idea of portable one, only because it gives you the versatility of the slab. I mean, there's no pickleball people there. Now we got rollerbladers, hockey players, you know, people that want to go out and just do whatever on that slab, they can still use it, even though the markings for pickleballers are,
Right.
they can still skate, they can put up a portable hockey net and they can rollerblade,
Because I
whatever.
think we were gonna lay out that basketball hoop too. You guys wanted the lines drawn out for that too, right?
They were gonna do 3 pickleball courts, 2 shuffleboard,
Two shuffle.
and then a basketball this way, which is gonna,
So
we originally talked to maybe putting the basketball in, but man, they're using that net floor hockey down there, so we go this way so they can still use it for
and then
floor hockey and stuff.
one other idea I brought up to Fred that day we were down there with Dana was, we got a bunch of benches. It'd be a perfect place, able to put some benches on the outside of that. Dan King back then had a grant money for some of these benches. In fact, we used one of the benches down there for the memorial for him, and then Joan bought a plaque for that bench. But we've got a lot of them benches, and they said it would be kind of nice to have some of them set on the outside. So when they're playing pickleball, they shuffle people in and out, I assume, for that pickleball, but
Well, I like your idea that we should buy one net because, I mean, the club that they have their nets, so the nights they play, they can bring all their stuff down.
Right.
So we start with one net and some paddles and stuff, and we can figure out where to, I mean, get the lines drawn on 3 of them and stuff, so
they can set them up.
the club can, whatever, and then it's gonna be a process to figure out what's the best way, but, you know, if it has, you got, somebody's here till what, 5:30?
Yeah.
You know, well, if it's past 5:30, then they just don't use them that night or whatever.
I think once we buy one set and we see where the demand is in the community and who has their own nets and who has their own stuff, we'll find out in a hurry if we need more.
Yep.
And then it sounds like we have plenty of options between City Hall, potentially the library, and possibly Don down
Yep.
there. We could put up a sign that says, you know, call number A or B. You
Yep.
know, maybe put Don's first and City Hall second or something. That sounds like a great idea. How wide is the concrete down there?
60 by 160, 60.
Yeah, you can't really run a full-length basketball going north to south.
So we'll have to talk to the guy at the library, and we'll have to talk to Donnie too, you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we can do that after that.
so, yeah, I like the idea. Let's start with one set of nets. Okay, well,
Has the fire department, I think, talked about new boards? I mean, is that the same size? I mean, the boards that they had before were just staked right into the ground. Obviously, now that it's a rectangle, the boards can't stake into the concrete anymore. There's gonna have to be new boards made or something, or,
No, we're gonna use the same boards and just, yeah, now that it doesn't have, you know, 8 to 10 inches of water in there, it's not gonna have that pressure pushing it out.
Yep.
So we're hoping that we're not gonna have to pin it down,
right, just freestanding.
just freestanding and then using the hand bony to freeze it right on the concrete.
oh, cool.
Well, that's what we're shooting for. I mean, and we're talking about painting those boards because now it's gonna be reflecting off and you're gonna have the dark boards with the light concrete. So we're gonna have to probably paint them now white so then it doesn't refract the sun and start melting the edges faster than it's supposed to. It's about all we were gonna do. I know that we had some replacement ones because boys hit it with a tractor last year trying to clear snow on a couple of the corners on that far side.
Nice, well, if it does push out, we can always go to the outside of the concrete and put something, and just put something laying flat on there.
Yeah, until you get to the, well, the one end will be good, but the other end will be a little different. But we're thinking without that 8 inches of water, putting all that pressure on that, we won't have any blowouts or anything. And once they're froze, they're not gonna be moving, so. And then, yeah, we're just hoping that it holds underneath the boards. If we gotta get some kind of gasket system to set the boards on to keep the water in, we'll do that too. And it's just gonna all be trial and error.
One big giant ratchet strap.
Yeah, one giant ratchet strap.
So are we looking at, or what are you looking for here, Mike? What to get, or?
We should probably make a motion. And then on your basketball too, you want to get 2 of those basketball hoops and
Are those
stencil.
similar to the basketball poles and stuff, similar to what's out over here then?
Right.
Now, weren't you saying something about the hoops out here? The
Need some
backboards and
attention
stuff
too.
are in tough shape?
I had mentioned it
Oh,
one other time, when you play out here at the ones right by the ballpark out there, that they kind of got the double rimmed nets and the old metal backboard on there. There's a whole lot of, but I mean, they're still very usable, but there's a whole lot of vibration and movement and things to those. I know the newer ones now are much better, but I don't think they need an immediate replacement. Just
Okay.
So I don't know if that's what was sent in here, Troy. I don't know what these systems, this looks very, maybe with that, maybe this one's got that post going off the center of them. Maybe that helps for the vibration, the actual picture. Otherwise, I think some of them are just straight off the back pole. I'm not sure, but that's what was in there. They look similar to what's out there though, so I don't know if it's a good system for it.
Yep,
What's out there is just all one steady pole.
it is one big steady pole with a bend in it.
So
Yep.
maybe this with that arm coming off, maybe that's a different system. I don't know.
This looks different than what's out there.
That could be.
And we're looking at just putting one down on the concrete pad. Where's the other one, or two?
You were talking two now, right? Both sides.
And they'll go the 60-foot way then?
Nice. Yep.
That's a little change from what was talked about before, but
Yep. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So you need a motion on
what you guys want to order.
what we want to order then, so.
Who votes for aluminum? Who votes for fiberglass?
On,
The shuffleboard. That.
for the sticks, you mean? Hey, I've only, the league I am in, no. When I'm down at Jellystone, they've always
Out of my element,
They've
I
always
don't
had
know.
aluminum ones, right? And I have no idea what,
Price is 86 for the aluminum ones and 150 for the fiberglass. I think that's what it looks like.
any discussion on that?
I'll second.
Outside my area of expertise. Shuffleboard.
What are you thinking, Mike? Aluminum? Yep, okay, let's do aluminum.
I gotta go to another meeting. Higher call, church council.
Oh, yeah, yeah. See you later.
Have a good night, Brian.
Okay,
So you're looking for a motion for the two basketball setups, one portable net and a full set of paddles and everything for pickleball to get things going, and then one set of the aluminum shuffleboard things, just to get enough so that we can get everything going.
And that stencil, throw that in
And
there
that
too.
stencil too.
And the shuffleboard.
I'll definitely make a motion to the proposal for the acquisition of that stuff.
Mary,
And I'll second that.
okay, we got a motion, a second
I'll
to
second.
buy the equipment for the cement slab out down in the park. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Yep, no, we're good. Okay, is that about everything we need on that then, right, Mike?
I think so.
Okay,
Did we say two basketball hoops?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so one aluminum shuffleboard set and stencil, two basketball hoops.
One pickleball net and one pickleball set, like paddles and.
Thank you.
And balls.
Full paddles and balls.
Excellent. Okay, new business. Grant discussion. Is this the grant for the campgrounds then, or?
No, this would be a different one.
This for that playground packet in the back?
Yeah,
Is that
so.
the playground one?
Yeah.
Yes, so what I included in the packet is just the application. It actually came with this book. So the way that Dylan described it is he found it through CETA. But so they'll do, you have to spend $75,000 in order for them to give you $75,000, but it has to be stuff on this book. So essentially, it's kind of like a sale that they do,
Mhm.
but I think if stuff is needed, and I think on the application, it's down here in like kind of the small text towards the bottom, the big paragraph is where it specifies, or even here too, it breaks it down.
Yeah.
Because under $75,000, they will match it, but they'll give you a certain percent.
So this,
So I don't know if you guys need anything or want anything, you just thought you guys should see it.
oh, this isn't, they just sent this.
Kind of, yeah.
Are we, because are we looking to replace
Not yet. I don't think yet, but
Yeah, this was just
so then-
unsolicited.
Okay,
Yep, just out of the blue, it came from CETA.
Yep.
Or, well, I can't even really remember how, he found it through CETA, so he inquired to get the book. Or was going to inquire to get the book, but they had already sent it to him.
is there any handicap stuff in there?
Yeah.
Do they have any of the stuff, that have the stations that people can go to exercise at, like along the trail?
Like those
I think so.
I think so.
Like
gliders?
you can do pull-ups and recline sit-ups and that type of stuff, or hop-ups?
I went to a playground when we visited Arizona last year and it had like it had a stair stepper, like a outdoor
Yes,
stair stepper. And then what are those?
Yeah, like the glider or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Front of that application, Mary, they're showing, well, they got obstacle courses and then they also had just what you're talking about, select fitness products too.
Mhm.
That's in the front of that application on that playground grant.
Okay,
So
that
that's
might
it.
be something nice to think about adding to the park at some point.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That was brought up.
Well, and Dylan said that the guy that he spoke to told him that this is something that they do every year, but it's not something they do, like it's supposed to be they do it every year, but they don't advertise it that way. So if it's not something that we're looking to do this year, it's a good chance that it could come around next year too.
Probably also very, very popular with the whole COVID thing and different things shutting down, everybody getting outside. So
Oh, yeah.
He was telling us that they gave an example of because there's some cities up in the cities that
The one in Woodbury.
do that, where they like buy tons of stuff, like they have a huge park budget and they just wait for this and just buy tons of stuff.
The one in Woodbury by those outlet malls or whatever is all this equipment and it is huge.
Well, Chris, that'll be your job, is to get us a huge park budget.
Yeah, well, if I could get us a huge budget for a playground, it would be a handicap playground added somewhere else in this city
Absolutely.
for handicap accessibility.
I think they do have a bunch of that equipment in there. I was looking through it the other day. They have a lot of cool stuff.
Well, that's a good idea. It's something maybe we gotta look at too.
But yeah, when it comes time to do something with the King's Kingdom, wow, what an opportunity this would be.
Mhm.
absolutely.
What's that? Redo Kids Kingdom? When? there an idea floating around?
No, they've been, for 10 years, been putting aside $10,000 for Kids Kingdom for it to be replaced and
At some point, it'll have to get replaced and moved out of the floodplain.
I don't know.
But there's
I don't-
nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it, and to me, there's nothing wrong with it in the floodplain.
Can they make a giant dome that you can put over the top of it?
Well, and I think your new playground stuff is getting to be all plastic.
Oh, yeah, that's the way it
Composites
goes.
and metals and
Composites and.
poly coated and.
Right.
All that side dries up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just, FYI, yep. Thank you.
Holy cow.
Is that book available online? Mary and I, anybody else want to?
I can look and see if I can find it online.
CETA just sent the one for applying or whatever. But
Miranda, will you just keep that in your office then?
Yes, yeah, but I'll see if I can find it online, because there's a lot of pages there that I think a PDF version would be beneficial.
Okay.
what's that?
Or was it?
I think she has the packet. Mary, you have this packet, right?
Yeah, I sure do. Yep.
She was going through the
Okay,
page with it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on the grant? Discussion? Okay. We'll move on to the softball field discussion.
So at the softball field, we had a small little outdoor movie night just to raise awareness on that based off of the discussions we had last month. Brian was gonna check with the budget to see what we had to give and donate towards the construction of dugouts and bullpens there. After looking at the books, his suggestion to me was raise as much as you can. So he didn't come back because I had asked, like, how much could the park board afford to put towards some of that to find out how much more we would need to raise just in order to do that. And he couldn't come up with a hard number. I also couldn't come up with a hard number as to what I was looking for from the board. So we kind of met at an impasse. So he just said, well, just get the ball rolling and see what kind of community contributions you can get. So just to get the word out there, we haven't put an ad in the paper yet, but that's what this letter here is just kind of a proposal that we put together, looking for some sponsorship and what they might get from that sponsorship. Some businesses may get some advertisements similar to what we did a few years back, putting a banner on the outfield fence, maybe on the backstop behind home plate, maybe on the actual dugout itself, to just hang for one calendar year, just to say thank you for that. In addition to that, looking at possibly putting up a permanent sign right in between the men's and women's restroom that sits right there, so it faces the parking lot, that says thank you to these sponsors. Very similar to the original sign that is at the entrance of the ballpark, which should be taken down. A lot of those businesses aren't even open or in business anymore. We should think about possibly redoing that sign, so maybe we could do both at the time we redo the signage. But there was a great community support coming out there and talking about the continual improvement efforts at the ballpark. So I think we will be able to find a few sponsors. We just need to get more awareness out there. So I think that the ad, which Brian is still willing to place, he thought that the park board could pay for the ad in the news record to print something like this, as long as the park board is okay with the verbiage on here. Just stating different levels of sponsorship and what's going on. Also with the event that we held, or I held this last weekend, there's lots of volunteers who want to donate their time, possibly bringing in a skid loader to, prep and do some of the concrete work, lend a hand with just pounding nails or the construction of the roof, or maybe setting some fencing or things like that. I don't know. We don't have any blueprints, we don't have any things like that, but maybe if we just look at the material side of things, maybe we can get the labor, which was my original idea anyway, is that we'd get the labor donated to do that. I still don't see the materials costing any less than the original budget of like $28,000 between the concrete, the fencing, the roofing materials, the benches themselves. We had about $7,000 per dugout times 4. So we're looking at like 28 grand. So with that said, I think we're gonna need some help from the community. Hopefully some big time sponsors step up. I was gonna write some personal letters to like the VFW or some of the bigger businesses in town and see what they'd be willing to give. But I think we're still gonna be several thousand short.
What, just out of curiosity, what was the size of them, just the dugouts alone, Troy?
So 8 by 24
24
is a
long
pretty,
and
yep,
deep?
24 long and 8 feet deep. And then the cement pad would be just fully underneath there, and then maybe another 4 feet just to get around and into the field.
And what we're looking at is like the 6 by 6s and whatever we need for the roof, right?
Right.
Did you get a price on that from anybody, that, just the lumber materials yet?
So that budgetary number that was in there, the original that I had, I went to Menards
Oh,
and just
sure.
got those 6 by 6s and that stuff there. And also in some of our travels, we've seen some other dugouts that are a little less maintenance, so they don't have the 4 by 4s there. I think 6 by 6s would match, I think, what we already have in the little picnic table pavilion there. But other communities have done like steel posts, like painted steel posts or galvanized steel that's there and that just bolts down to the concrete. Some of the other construction guys that were talking at the event this weekend had talked about how you intend to anchor them if you're gonna cement around them and go down into the ground. I don't know how we did the ones up there, but it looks like we did big 8 by 8s or 6 by 6s and went down into the ground. And they just poured the cement around it.
Crap or something on there to
Right,
attach
but
the post.
With this short of a roof and not being enclosed on any one of the sides, I can't imagine the wind here taking a hold of too much of this, or at least the post. If anything, maybe the sheeting could potentially fly off in a really, but I don't see it going anywhere.
I wouldn't even worry about that.
And I'm assuming just from an aesthetic standpoint, we would want to shingle it to match the shingles that are on the bathroom concession stand. And I mean, it all matches out there right now. So, but you could do tin if you wanted to.
I think, I mean, if budget wise, if it worked, I think the steel would be, we've been actually trying to switch everything over to steel as much as we can, you
Yep.
know? And I don't know budget wise what the price difference is.
Well, when I was in the lumberyard, the tin per square was the same as shingles per square.
Right.
What is asphalt?
Huh? What's that?
Maybe.
What's that?
I'd say it's at least double than asphalt for
Now?
steel.
Or,
I'd say double. You got, yeah, I'd just say it's double. Steel, your screws, your panels, your fascia, everything to go in the whole. I'd just say it's double than shingles.
yeah, but I know I used to bid against, I mean, somebody say, well, how much for this? And then for just the shingles, not counting accessories.
Yep.
Was $100 a square.
And that's what the metal was too.
It was $100 a square without accessories. That was 8 years ago already, so, you know, one or the other might have went up, but
So I guess I'm just looking for the board's approval to go ahead and run this ad in the paper, looking for some sponsorship from some, you know, local folks, preferably businesses, obviously some bigger stuff. And then I guess I would come back with a number of what we can raise at a certain time and say, this is how much we're short and what can we do between now and then. I think we have enough money. When I talked to Brian before last meeting, we had about $3,800 in the banner budget that I had done a few years back. That's still in the kitty. And then he had about $500 left over from an old baseball booster club that he was going to combine with that. So we had roughly $4,300. So I think that's enough to get the cement going. So depending on what type of volunteers I can get with, I have people that are willing to start at least grading that and getting things ready. I was looking for the permission to, you know, get a group of volunteers ready to go and start scraping, getting away the cement slabs and hopefully get that poured before possibly even frost sets in and yet even this fall. I'd like to do that now. Then we can always come back in the spring after we get some donors over the winter, things like that, figure out where our budget's at and figure out if we can do the the bullpen and the dugouts and the benches.
So when I look at it, I like the idea of the 6x6s. I mean, I think that's as simple, I think that's as simple as you're gonna get it, right, Brad? I mean, sink your 6x6s in the ground and put your headers, your.
I wish I'd looked a little closer. Yesterday I was up by Lakeville, the big complex up there, and they didn't have 6x6s, but they had pipes into the cement coming up, and I guess I didn't look to see how they were holding up the headers to carry the roof. I guess I didn't look at that close enough. I should have taken a peek at that.
It's not a lot of weight. The span is so small and there's really no rafters, like you say, that's just a straight board up there. So we can get a better detailed plan of that before we do any concrete work, obviously, so to find out if we want to sink things right in the ground. To find out if we want to go with a 6x6 or if we want to do a nice galvanized pole and then some sort of attachment on the top just to put a header beam on there.
Is it okay if the park board authorizes extra funds? You spend the 4,300 and then we say go for the concrete this fall, get it done with extra funds from park board? Depending on the design.
What was your concrete was what for all four concrete?
Well,
Just the
the
concrete,
quote-
wasn't it like
Right. The
10
quote
10,000?
that I originally had, was like $8,000 to do the four of them, but that was the labor, the everything, and that, I think I forwarded that email to Mike that we were looking at having the city dump truck available to haul away some of the sod and to haul the class 5 in there, things like that. That was from a local guy, but obviously if we can get some local gentleman to do it, now we're just talking the cost of the concrete. So that quote is kind of out the window. We can do it a little bit less expensive.
Was that the concrete through like a contractor, or would it be
Correct.
worth a visit to talk to them down there and see if we can?
Yep, no, that was Creative Concrete here, the same one that bid for the Veterans Memorial. So that's the only reason I went there. I didn't even go through Kraus or get a second bid or anything. I just wanted to get.
No,
a rough
I was
estimate.
just talking to Ready Mix. Maybe they would
Right,
really cut
Yeah.
us a deal for the youth out there.
And I told them, I said not to whatever on Creative Concrete, but I do have all the concrete tools and I would volunteer my time to make those flat surfaces for the dugouts.
And I had about 3 other guys at the movie say, I got a skid loader, and like even Michael Rood said, I think I poured the picnic table pavilion right here. He goes, make sure you pour it thick, make sure you put rebar in it. He says, only pour it one time. He goes, don't cheap out on your concrete, just do it, get it done and be done with it, and then you can be there for
Good
years.
Concrete, well, I think there's plenty.
It's not overly difficult. It's not a very big slab. It's 8 feet wide. I mean, you can screed the whole thing
But
by
I'm
hand.
with Mike with finding out what we're gonna do with the walls and stuff, because whether it's a 6x6 or if it's galvanized posts, I think it should go right in that concrete, be there and done.
I got guys with skid loaders, with post hole diggers that we can have Gopher come out and mark it, and we can mark out exactly where it needs to go. We just need to find out what we want to do for the final design, whether it wants to be the treated lumber dug down in there.
Well, and I think, that would be, and then you get that much in now,
Right.
then you got this winter to
Right.
either
Keep
do
going.
fundraising and we'll
Yeah.
know
Right.
more where our budget is, where, when we get this other stuff all dialed in here this fall.
Yeah, once we got posts set and concrete down, where there is a whole big chunk left. I mean, obviously the benches are not, inexpensive. The aluminum benches with the backstop and everything to go in there that are no maintenance and stay there, they were like $1,200 each. And I know like the chain link fence to stay the same height as what's there, that was a good chunk of change too. But
Yep.
just the concrete work and the framework, then, 50% of it's really kind of there.
So Mike, what were you thinking that, to make sure they can go ahead with this, to what shortfall they have, if they do have any shortfall, that the park board would?
That's what I'm thinking, we can accomplish this in the fall.
I think so. That'd be great. With the volunteer help and stuff like that, I think the concrete could come in way less than $1,000 a dugout, and we got 4 dugouts, so the $4,000 we got sitting there, we might not even tap into additional funds.
I mean, that was the beauty of that movie. You got a lot of input from people like, oh yeah, I want to help. It's like, well, we got to tap into that then.
Absolutely.
On projects like this, and
Can I make an initial motion to approve the ad in the news record? And get that going?
Mhm.
As That's my initial motion as of right now. I do like the whole layout here.
Nice.
So you're making a motion to run the ad?
Approve the ad from the park board and run the funds from the park board.
Did you get that, Mary?
Yep, I did, and I'll second it.
You can second it. Yep, now we got a third one here, so, okay. Okay, Mike's got a motion. Did I miss a second?
Very.
Mary seconded.
Seconded.
Yep.
All right. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
Secondary motion on this topic is to make a motion to initiate the concrete pads for the softball fields using the existing funds, and then park board will supplement the individual funds needed to accomplish the concrete pour according to the design proposed. Can I be more specific?
I think that's perfect.
Does that need a second?
Was that a second motion? Oh, okay, I thought you put it all together, the first one.
That's a second motion, a secondary motion for this topic.
Okay.
And it does need a second, Mary.
Yep, I'll second it.
Okay, Jake, I got a secondary motion and a second to it. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Excellent.
Should we tell them about just shooting right for shields for that batting cage too?
Well, that, yeah. So when we go to move the trees, and Mike, I don't know when we plan on doing that. There's some small pine trees that need to be relocated when they do the Veterans Memorial there.
They just did that.
Oh,
Today.
they just did it today? I was gonna say there's like 4 more that are on the other side of the bike path right there. That would be a perfect spot to move those out and put those in our nursery somewhere as well, because that's a perfect spot on the north side of that bike path there behind the big pine trees. Those small ones that are there would be the perfect location for a batting cage. And with that location, it is kind of almost like a billboard location. It's kind of tucked behind a tree a little bit, but I think if we could go after a big sponsor like Shields or Dick's Sporting Goods or even Zumbrota Ford or Flagship Chevy or somebody who wants to sponsor the whole entire thing, we can pitch it to a giant sponsor to say, if you want to foot the bill for this whole thing, you can splash your name on the side of this batting cage. So there's a big net there with some poles, you know, a nice flat concrete pad with maybe some all-season carpeting turf or whatever their pitching mounds that they can sponsor, say sponsored by Shields or something, if they want to do that. So yep, it would be, yeah, literally when you look at that photograph, that bottom photograph that's right there, it's just after you go off of the bike path. So where the D is in dugout, that's right where those pine trees are now. So if you were to go on that bottom photograph, as you're headed straight vertically on the picture, you go past the bathroom, past the shelter, and then that bike path makes a little kind of S curve. So right about where the D in that upper photograph is dugout, there's some small pine trees right there. If they were removed, there's enough spot right there for a future batting cage. Yeah, I should have coordinated that with you, Mike. I thought we had talked about that briefly when we were out there talking at the Veterans Memorial that day. Where did the little trees that we moved for the veterans, where did they end up
We
going?
moved them back towards the softball fields more.
Oh, gotcha.
So they'd be almost straight east of.
Yep, just on the outside of that little fence.
So I know Brad had talked that he didn't want them anywhere around there, but I think Mick was giving us if not free moving, just moving on site. So I kind of said beggars can't be choosers. So there's plenty of room to work with in there for the Veterans Memorial.
Sure. So I guess it would be nice. I would like to potentially get some feelers out here from the park board to find out what the cost would be just to move those small little pine trees on the north side of the bike path there, on the outside of the outfield fence there, to relocate them even within the vicinity of that same area, maybe down closer towards the community garden or whatever's back there, or nursery or whatever's right down there. Or closer down, maybe, I don't know if we can even put anything closer down towards the skate park or anything, the smaller trees. I know eventually I'd like to even bring back, but I don't have any designs yet. Wiffle ball field with some temporary bases and posts, some temporary stuff to go right next to the skate park there. We got those 2 empty lots in the floodplain.
So, that was, and I don't know who was part of that conversation because I'm getting so old, Troy, but that conversation got brought up about using some of the old softball fields out in the park, actually. Were you part of that?
That was, yeah. So when I'd asked if we could take that backstop out of there and repurpose that backstop and put it over by the skate park for that, the first objection was, well, you can't put anything permanent in the floodplain. So if we don't put anything permanent, we could put in just some holes that we could pop temporary posts in that could, come out. It could be PVC tubing. A lot of the fences and things like that are made up, backstops and stuff, are very with wiffle balls. It's all plastic. It's very temporary fencing. They use snow fencing and stuff like that, not chain link. But I don't have any of that prepared, so I'm not going to waste any time tonight discussing that. But that would be a great opportunity over there. But we could get local sponsors to sponsor a bunch of the netting and stuff like that, so it could pop in and out, and they could sponsor it from month to month, like Chevy one month and Ford the next month. I mean, kids love wiffle ball, and it's all kind of over there with the baseball complex, so it would work out well. But at least I wish I would have known that they were moving so quick, because that would have been a perfect opportunity to move those little trees while he was there. But
I think Brad called me last week and said they must want to get moving on that a little faster too.
Correct.
But Klug did it. So
Right. So we got local.
He's ready.
We got a local guy. He can move.
He's ready.
Yep. So would you entertain an official motion then, just to ask permission to contact Klug and have him relocate that with Mike's input on where those trees could potentially go, and just clear that area so we have that area for a future batting cage?
I'd entertain it. I'm entertaining it, yeah. I would fully support the development of the batting cage and other facilities that you're dreaming up here.
Yep. That's one other key component that's really kind of missing out there from a safety perspective, is places to actually throw, pitch, hit, do things that you're not doing, that you're supposed to be doing when you're not on the field. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to make, unless you have other objections or input, Mary, I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion was to have the trees
The small pines
moved.
relocated so we can have future growth for a batting cage.
I'll look at that sometime with you, so we
Okay.
know for sure where I'm looking at.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to relocate some small pine trees for a future batting cage. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, any more discussion on the softball fields then?
No, I think
Kind of
we're
got
great.
what
We
you
can
needed
move
there?
forward with concrete. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Request to close Covered Bridge Park Road for the festival this weekend. I think we did that last, or 2 years ago, didn't we?
Yep, but, I don't know, it's gonna be a little bit different than in 2019, because Donnie with the campground was in today, and we were telling him about it. And in 2019, it worked really, really well, because we had the road blocked off, and our food vendors were to the north side of the park road.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue with that was that when people were waiting in line to get their food, they were on a very steep incline. So safety was kind of an issue. So we want to have them on the south side of the park road, which in 2019, having them on the north side, we were able to let campers in if we got new campers. Having them on the south side of the road, safety would be huge to not let large campers in. So that's that. But we would like to close the road, but we just want, and it would only be from 8 to 5.
What did Donnie say then?
Um,
As long as they're all aware back there. It's one.
Yeah.
one day.
he said right now it's pretty well empty. He said most people come in on Thursday or Friday.
That's what I was gonna say.
Not a ton of people come in on a Saturday. So And I mean, if it's one of our vendors that for some reason is bringing a camper and wanted to stay, they're gonna get there by 8.
Right.
So, I mean,
So do people call ahead to Donnie that they're coming?
it's first come, first served. Sometime, I mean, he's given us permission to give his phone number out. So, I mean, if they're coming from a long distance, sometimes we'll give them his number and they can call ahead. Just because why would they want to drive all the way up here and not have a spot?
But I'm just saying, if somebody calls for this weekend, say you can't get in after Saturday or Friday.
Right, going
and then the
forward,
people
that's,
that do
yeah.
Just pop in and, well, it's too
Yeah,
bad. Too
But
bad, I guess,
he is
Friday.
right, most people come Thursday or Friday.
Right.
So
I don't think it's gonna be,
I don't think it's gonna affect.
because the lines for the
revenue.
vendors will be in the road then.
Yeah.
The big thing is just so they're aware that they're not coming in and out of there.
Yeah, so we told him to let the current campers as of Friday know either that night or early Saturday morning to park at the pool.
Yeah, just park at the pool and walk up and down.
Oh, okay, so they can get out.
Like if they're planning on leaving that day,
Vehicle.
if they're planning on
Yeah.
leaving that day, they may have to just pull out early that morning.
Yep.
Or stay till after. I mean, we're gonna close it until 5 because the vendor fair closes at 4. But I mean, they might be able to get through sooner than 5, but.
And here's another good reason when we were talking about that campgrounds, I'd like to put an emergency exit out by the pool.
I was just gonna
With-
ask
with-
that.
With the gate on it,
Yeah.
and this would be another reason to
Yeah.
have that, so, yep.
That's right there in the pool parking lot could easily go across the bike path with a, like you say, a locking gate that Donnie could open up in an emergency and get through there.
I don't think even relocating the food trucks to a different spot in the park to keep the road open would make a difference because we're looking at the stuff we have today. We might actually have to overflow onto the other side of the park because we have so much stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
we just
think
got a
it's-
lot of foot traffic.
Yes.
And I think
So
it's a
if we're
great
gonna-
spot for it. I mean,
Yeah.
we just, like you said, let Donnie let everybody know that you're not leaving Saturday and so be it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just a
yeah.
request. You need a motion on that? do you
Yep,
think?
if I could. Yep.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to close the park road on Saturday.
And I'll second it.
we got a motion and a second to close the park road for the festival. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then the thing I added was a sign. You can take a peek at it. This is a rough graph that Mike Meyer just sketched up. I started talking to him in 19, so that's all, that's going to be could be, going to be a winter project just to tile in.
I don't know if Brian talked to you at all. We were talking about that at our meeting. Did Brian talk to you about meeting in with the EDA? Because the EDA's probably got some dollars available for that because it's advertising for what's going on down there.
Probably shared.
Yeah, a shared interest.
Because they're interested in something too.
And then they were saying that they had a sketch,
Advertise on it.
they had something sketched in like 17 or 18 as well that they wanted to go back and look at.
So I think that was
Yeah,
the big
They
sign.
bought that once to the park board.
That was the big sign.
That was just a huge welcome Zumbrota $35,000 sign and
Lion made the discussion point last month too, that so the sign at the entrance of Zambrota Park and the one in East Park all have that same covered bridge logo already. And that's the one that used to be on both ends of the highway and have the nice thing. That's just a really nice, almost like company logo for Zambrota. It's got that beautiful covered bridge. I mean, just the same artwork is really nice.
Sorry, we just changed that.
yep, that's why when he drew us up, it was like, I stay with this. And-
It's a nice logo.
All right,
Okay,
I got I
all right.
training.
Thanks. Thank
Have a
you.
good night, everybody.
Bye.
So, yeah, we'll work on that this
So
winter.
that'd be a great one. That's a great spot up there.
And yeah, you can always put stuff, yeah, we'll talk about that this winter.
Do you have any say in if that goes up there? Thought that was EDA's property now.
It's the park member.
That discussion.
Well, that was,
I didn't sound like you guys had any say in your parkland up there, for what I remember. That was from the previous administrator.
that was passed. Things have changed.
Things have changed. That's good. I just got one thing to add at the end here, and that goes back to our park benches that we're donating. We haven't had a meeting since we installed them. And then I'd asked Miranda to get some thank yous. Typically, we send thank yous out to the donations that were made. Two of them, or three of them down the park, Darwin and Mary Tree, and all those you guys approved was those parks. Darwin and Mary Tree donated one from Friends of the Compassion, our Compassion Friends Group out of Rochester. Richard Swart added another bench this year in memory of Carol, his wife. And then Joan Sands had, we actually used one of the benches that Dan had gotten grants for. And we got lots of them to use up, but then she had purchased a memorial plaque for that in memory of Dan. And then we had the Lions Club donated 3 benches up at East Park. And I think they were really nice additions to our parks. And I just wanted to make sure that our,
We can thank yous out to them.
thank yous out to them. We'll have the park board president sign the thank yous.
More
But
to
they were-
sign?
Get your,
More
get your hand
signatures.
ready.
But they were very nice additions and they fit in well. And Mary, I still would like to, I've got pictures with everybody with their benches, and Joan is going to meet me on Thursday. But I'd like to get somebody from the Lions Club to be able to take pictures with out there too. So sometime when you or Brian or somebody's available, just let me know. I'd appreciate it. And
Brian's on vacation right now, but when he gets back, I will make sure we make that happen.
Yep, and make sure you tell everybody thank you. We'll get thank yous printed out.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, I will. We have a meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. I'll entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Wait, I want a Fox Wolf.
Well,
Is that in
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, Mike? Carried. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
You guys are excellent park board. Thanks for all the hard work.
Mr. Troy,
Yes, sir.
did you get a CAD